So we look at three levels of freedom. Freedom in the business, doing more of the things that that really turn you on and that you love to do and love to contribute. Freedom from the business, actually giving yourself permission to have a life outside the business, and freedom because of the business, whether it's legacy planning, whether it's making an impact in some corner of the world.
Start your own business, they said. Be your own boss. You'll love it, they said. Or maybe they said, you have what it takes to be a senior leader. People love you, they said. They'll run through brick walls for you. So you started your own business or you accepted the promotion to a CHRO or SVP of people. Discover anything they didn't tell you yet? I'm Dr. Joey Fawcett, and if this is your first time checking out the Work Positive podcast, welcome home. The Work Positive community are your people. We deal in the daily reality of leading people, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we coach you to create a positive work culture to grow people and profits because of and in spite of that daily reality. So knowing what you know now, would you have started your own business or accepted that promotion to senior leadership? I get it. We all do. My guest is a senior leader of his own business, and he takes 18 weeks off each year for personal travel together with his family. You heard that right. 18 weeks off. How does he do it? He applies his own methods that he writes about and gives you direct access to today for increased freedom using 21st century strategies that work. So what will you and your family do on your 18 weeks off? Let's discover how you can grow people and profits on this episode of the Work Positive Podcast. Well, Work Positive Nation, how are you going to spend your time? We're after 16, 18, who knows, maybe we get 20 weeks off if you put the right systems in place and hire and attract the right people. Michael Walsh is here to help you do that. Welcome to the Work Positive community, Michael. Thanks for being on.
Well, thanks for having me here.
Yeah, delighted. And you're sitting in Vancouver, Canada today. So thanks for scheduling time with us when you're not with your family, right? What kinds of things do you and your family like to do together, Michael?
Well, one of the things that my wife and I do a lot when we're in smaller communities is we'll just kind of go around where they've got the little shops and little antique stores and things like that, and just kind of see what's there. Because when you're in different communities, they've all got their own flavor of things, so it's not all the same. Everything's unique. Cannon Beach has got something very different than Portland has got something very different than Cheyenne, Montana has got something very different than San Diego, or I don't do as much on the East Coast, but I must admit I just recently came back from Ohio, and they've got again a different energy there. Although I got to tell you, the energy there included a lot of snow.
It was all frozen energy, right?
It was like the blissful sleep of winter was going on there.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we've got some friends up there, John Bernatowitz and others. I tell them all the time, you guys do realize there are lots of other states that you could live in where you don't have to freeze to death for all those months every day. They love it there.
Exactly. And the only difference between them and in Wisconsin, in Green Bay, the only difference is you see the cheese above their heads going, we love it here, right? There's no question.
That's right. Man, I grew up in Eastern North Carolina. My blood is half apple cider and red pepper barbecue sauce. I was not made to live in that neck of the woods. But Vancouver's a beautiful place. We have friends up there in the Work Positive community as well. So thanks for sharing your time and energy with us today. We appreciate that so much. So Michael Walsh, you're a superhero, and every superhero has an origin story. So how did you get interested, provoked by this passion for freedom by design, which, by the way, is the title of your latest book?
Well, when I was, let me think, it was a minute or two. We're just coming up on our 31st anniversary as a firm here. I started this a little bit ago. But at the time I was doing some corporate work, but also some personal work. And I was working with, I had done financial planning and tax planning and things with clients. And I had a principal and his wife, a school principal, and his wife was an administrator in the school. We were helping them out. And they asked us to get them involved in an investment. We did. And part of what we were doing was taking care of their taxes. And I did back-to-back returns. We charged them $1,500 for the thing, and they were all happy with that because he was making at the time about 90,000 a year, and he had withheld taxes of about 30,000. This is in Canada. We tend to withhold more taxes in Canada than you do down in the
Yeah,
States. But based on the investment, we were able to get him $27,000 back. So he got a refund check of that amount. He was all happy with that.
I bet.
Next year, yeah, next year he comes to us again, and said, can you do that tax thing for us again? And sure. So went through, and a normal cost for us again, $1,500. Got him the same 27,000 back because the investment qualified year over year, and so his net tax payable was $3,000. Sent him a bill for 1,500, and he's like, "Why you send me a bill for 1,500?" I said, "Well, that's what we charge for back-to-back returns." He says, "Well, I could have gone to TurboTax and gotten them for a lot less." I'm like, "Yes, you could have." I said,
Okay.
you did get $27,000 back, right?" And he said,
Again.
well, yeah, but you did that last year. What do you got new for me?
Oh, my word.
And then when I'm looking at that, I'm going, you know, you cannot, in most places, you can't save people more tax than they paid. And if you put them into a higher yield investment, sometimes they're actually higher risk. That's why you get the higher yield. And there are people that lose their money.
Mm,
But then I thought, but if you can show somebody how to sell more, they keep paying you more. There's no lid on that one. So I said,
mm.
I think I'll do more of that than this. And that was the origin of how I got started. You can't blame the guy. He's like, well, okay. But you know what? I've never had that complaint when we've assisted people to grow their gross and net income.
Yeah. What have you done for me lately?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, okay. And I don't blame the guy. He was a nice enough man, but
Yeah. Right.
I just don't want to go there.
So, what have you learned over 31 years, Michael? It's like none of us, when we start our own business, well, maybe there are a few exceptions, very few of us know everything that's involved in starting that business or everything that we need, or even a large part of what we're going to need to know. But you kept your business going for 31 years. What do you know now that you wish you'd known 31 years ago?
Well, I don't know, but wish I'd known. I'm not big on running races backwards. Because it's like I'd have to beat myself up over everything because we all go through learning curves with every single step in life, right? So,
Yeah.
but there are some lessons that I've learned that took me a while to have them dawn on me. Let's just say that.
Mm,
And number one of them is that well, it's one of the things that we were talking about offline just before we started, and that's that people have this goal. When people get into business, they have this big goal and make $1 million in revenue. I've got
mm,
to get to 1 million in revenue, and
mhm,
because if I do that, then I'm set. Then I'm established business owner. I'll be all fine. And what they don't realize is that with every additional milestone beyond the first million, um, frankly, there are underlying issues and impediments that we have no idea that exist,
mm,
if I'm at 1 million, my first next goal is 2 million in
mhm,
revenue. And if I hit 2 million in revenue, then my next goal is, well, 5 million in revenue. And if I hit
mhm,
five, I'm looking at 10, right?
mhm.
If I'm continuing to grow, there's a lot of times people stop. And then if I'm looking at 10, of course, then there's 20, and then it continues on from there.
Yeah, yeah.
But what I find
Escalation.
is with each milestone, there's lots going on. And of course, one of the things we said is, if you, a lot of times people say, especially with established businesses, people come and people go. You can't count on people. They'll do what they do, but you can count on your systems and structures.
Mm.
They're here to stay focused on the systems and structures and make the people fit the systems. And I'm like, no, they don't. Like the systems and structures do not stay. Let's not kid ourselves, right? And these
Yeah.
static structures are not going to serve you as time goes on,
Mhm.
right? So again, a company at 1 million, that same company at 5, and that same company at 10 million, they look very different from each other. I
Mm.
mean, there's no way the structures at 5 million are going to be the same as the structures you have at 1 million. We all know that. And there's
Mm.
no way that a $10 million company can operate on the structures for 5 million. You are blowing through structures, constantly. So you're literally reinventing the whole business. So
Mm.
the people that focus on the structures and then say the people are secondary, they don't get it.
Mm.
Okay. But the truth is that, I mean, it's like saying, if you, okay, DNA aside, think of a child. I don't know if you've got any children, it's how many or whatever. I've got kids but if I think of, for example, my son at age 3, and then when he was age 13, and then when he was at age 23, okay, DNA aside, his behavior is very different at those 3. I got 3 different kids on my hands, right? I mean,
Yeah,
at age
hopefully.
13, you're dealing with somebody who's like struggling through what it looks like to go through puberty.
Yeah,
Okay. At age 3, you're looking at some young kid who's like, you're trying to get the right things in his mouth, like the vegetables, and you're trying to
yeah,
keep the wrong things out of his mouth, like the sand in the sandbox. I mean,
yeah,
very different issue. And then at
yeah.
23, you've got this young adult whose brain is almost developed, because it doesn't really stop till they're about 25, but they see life very differently than they did 10 years earlier, or definitely 20 years old. And the only way we as parents survive this is through the relationship,
Mm,
right? And the relationships we have, well, same in business. If you don't nurture and foster relationships that allow mutual trust, nothing works. So it's not about the structures. It's about looking at, how do I, well, actually, that's not true. It is about the structures.
mhm,
Except the mistake people make is they try to put in structures to corral and constrain behavior, as
mm,
opposed to putting in structures that support people to be at their best. So if you said, listen, we got a lot of people here, we're doing this, it seems we outgrew this. What is it that you need? And you go, well, I just need this and that. And you're like, well, that's easy enough to give you. The thing is that everybody wants something a little bit different. So if you've got enough flexibility to give people structures that'll support them at being at their best, you'll find that at any given point in time, about a third of your people need the same structures. So if I have 3 sets of variations on a structure, or a system or a process, I can actually give everybody what they need, and I got everybody working at their best. So what I found is, one of the things that I learned is, it really is all about relationships. Number 2, you do need structures and systems as well as people as you grow. And number 3, the structures need to serve the people, not the other way around.
Say that again for the people on the back row. They
Number
need,
1, okay,
yeah,
3 points. Number
yeah.
1, it really is all about relationships.
Let's tease that out a little bit and talk about relationships.
Sure.
So, how do I, let's say I want to attract top talent to my company.
Hmm. Okay.
How do I attract that top talent through conversations to impress upon them or to display for them? Relationships really are important in our company.
Um, okay. I don't know if Sam mentioned to you, I'm a little bit of a contrarian. I'm sorry to say. Okay. My response would be, you don't.
Okay.
Okay. My job is not to convince anybody of anything. If
Okay.
I'm hiring, I do not convince anybody of anything, because the minute I convince somebody, that means that's not the natural way they think. My job is to attract people that are aligned with how I think, and I'm aligned with how they think, at the level of values, at the level of their commitments, at the level of what they want. And frankly, I too many times people try to convince people to take a job. It's like, that's
Mm.
if you have to be convinced to take a job, you probably have to be convinced to do the job, and then you wonder why you have trouble with your people.
So you're selling
Literally.
the sizzle instead of the steak. And so rather than selling someone anything, you attract them. So how do you talk to them and invite them into a culture of relationships when their work experiences may be totally different?
Well, here's what I would do: is I would say, listen, we're not for everybody, but I understand um, you showed an interest in us. What was it about us that actually had you be interested in wanting to explore this possibility? And
Mm.
if they go, well, I've heard lots about how your people work with each other and the types of things you do, and even how you worded the ad that you put up, I could tell this was all about people, and this really caught my attention. Okay, that's one response you get. Now you want to see the opposite response to that? They're like this. They're like, um, which one were you? Okay. Okay. I know somebody, they just want to do a job. Or somebody goes, well, the technical of this or the technical of that. It's like, okay, I got no problems with that.
Uh-huh.
But in the conversations, who are your favorite types of people to work with? Okay. What types of people annoy you? What kinds of people do you get along best with? You know what I mean? Um, what's the best thing that's happened to you so far in your career and what made it the best? I
Mm,
mean, you ask people questions and they'll be busy telling you all about themselves and the answers. So there's the level of the content, but then there's the level of what is the interpretation that somebody had to have to give me that response. And I want to listen. Are these people aligned? Now, listen, seriously, we're not for everybody. People, one of the biggest problems we have here is kicking people out and getting them to go home. They're so excited about working with each other because they
yeah,
create some really cool stuff together. Um,
right.
Seriously, this is not for now. For the right person, they really grow. They learn a ton, and that turns into increased wealth, and as usually does. But I got to tell you, it's like unless you're interested in what you can learn and how you can grow, don't come here. This is a bad idea.
Mm, mm,
And the
mm.
person that goes, "Oh, it sounds like a bad idea," I want them to leave.
They want them to
And the
self-select
person
before
that
they even
goes,
start.
"Well, that's what I was hoping it was. I really love to learn. I like, and
Mm,
there's everybody claims they want to learn,
mm,
but you want to listen. Everybody will say they want to learn. Many people um, say they want to learn stuff, but really what they're really interested in is demonstrating how much they already know, which
mm,
is very different than somebody who wants to learn.
mm.
So one of the things that a very, very simple thing is it's like, tell me about the biggest mistake or screw up that you made. Now, I used to say, tell me about the biggest mistake. And here's what people would do invariably. Joining that company because they treated me poorly. It was a
Wow.
mistake to join them. So
Mm,
all the energy goes over there. Whereas
mm.
if I say, what was the biggest mistake or screw up you made? Oh, you mean something I did? Yes. And then if somebody doesn't have anything, like here's the thing, people talk about A players and all that, and A players, it's like the A team of, the A
Uh-huh.
league or the A team, in whether it's hockey or baseball or whatever.
Right.
Um, well, the reason that people separate people like that is because you know what? If I'm on the A, so I was growing up as a child in Canada, hockey was a big deal.
Hmm.
Still is a big deal. Okay, so
Yep.
but
Yep.
I had weak ankles.
Oh,
I would
wow.
never make it on the A team. I wouldn't even make it on the B team. I'm the house league kid, right? And that's fine. Everybody gets a turn. It's all equal, and we kind of
Right.
sort of
Right.
care about who wins, sort of. But it's the treats after the game that a 6-year-old really is interested in, right?
That's right.
So, but you know what? The 6-year-olds or 7 or 8-year-olds that are actually really competitive. If I was on the A team, it's horrible for them. It's horrible for me. Nobody passes me the puck. They're all having to work around me now. Instead of 5 people on the ice, I got 4 people and Michael. I mean, so we're not quite sure what to do with him, right? So
Right.
it just generates like animosity. So if you put people who are like-minded and interested in striving and creating and growing, they'll have each other's backs, and it creates an environment where you're in really good shape. In my
Mm,
opinion, literally, if you want to have a sustainable, successful company where you really grow the freedom of not only the owners but everybody in it, you're in a situation where you got to go with complementary strengths, and you're looking for people who are interested in learning and growing. And and you listen for that, you can't convince of anybody that they should do that. It
mm,
just doesn't work that way.
mm. We had Steve Cadigan, who was LinkedIn's first CHRO, on the
Okay.
podcast. And he talked about that very thing, Michael, and talked about it as learning velocity. So instead of hiring people for what they know and can do today, we're
Mhm.
interested in their learning velocity. That is, their adaptability, how quickly they can learn, because AI, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, is changing the face of work so quickly today. So, discerning who those people are that really want to learn rather than people who are trying to backfill on their mistakes. That's a
Yeah.
key part of attracting top talent.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you look at the situation, like if you look at the difference between, let's say, our A player and a
Hmm.
B player works really well if somebody gives them structure.
Mm.
But in that fast changing AI based environment that you just described, the structures are getting blown out far faster. It's not
Yep.
fair to somebody to put them into an environment where
Mm.
it's just a matter of a few months and they're going to be struggling again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're in a situation where this is not snobbery. This is actually creating alignment in
Hmm.
an environment that really works for everybody who is there. Because you don't have a
Hmm.
promise that everybody's going to fit your place. The key is to find the ones that do, and then really work well with them and give them what they need so they can learn and they can grow. I listen to how people learn.
Mm.
So I don't ask, are you interested in learning? So how do you prefer to learn? Well,
Mm.
I do a lot of reading. I believe in reading. Oh, great. When was the
Mhm.
last book you read? Well, sometime in 23. So are
High
you more
level
of
of
a,
commitment to learning, right?
yeah,
That's hilarious.
it's amazing. Or some people go, well, I don't read books. I listen to them. Okay. Well, what are you listening to now? Well, I'm listening to this. Really? How's that? And they're telling you all
Uh-huh.
about it. And it's like, huh, and they said, well,
Mm.
and it relates to the one that I just finished before that was this and that. And it's like, okay, so they got a different learning style, but they really are interested in growing their perspectives on things. Because,
Yeah.
with AI coming, perspectives matter, you
Mm.
know. You see things from a different lens. It changes everything.
Mm.
So that's one of the things I listen for as well.
That's amazing. Let me ask you a question. What if the key to growing your work culture hides in plain sight? Take the free Work Positive Culture Assessment to discover it. Get insights in less than 4 minutes that transform your culture so you grow people and profits. You just answer 13 simple questions and discover your culture stage, strengths, and personalized next steps. Get your free aha culture moment at workpositive.today. Go to workpositive.today right now. I absolutely love it. Michael Walsh is my guest on this episode of the Work Positive Podcast. In the show notes, you're going to find several things there. One is his LinkedIn profile. Go there, connect with him, follow him, and ask him questions there. Also, you'll see a link to his latest book, Freedom by Design, and you can go over where everybody goes to get books these days, over to Amazon, and pick up your copy. So tell us about Freedom by Design, Michael. What's the purpose of that book, and what's your aspiration for readers?
Well, what I find is people do outstrip their structures, and they do that at the same time that they're increasing their numbers. And so what I wanted to do is to write something that is more of a framework than anything else that actually allows established business owners to really support the growth of their people in support of the sustainability and the growth of the organization. Because what I find is, I don't know about you, but if I've got people that are working really well together and they're all having a ball, they are so much easier to support and
Mm,
less work
mm,
on my part. Okay.
mm,
Whereas if they're having to slog through things, then and it's a high stress environment, it's not as much fun for them, and frankly, the work just doesn't get done the same way. I've seen people do high volumes of stuff in a way that lights everybody up, and it's just a treat to be at work with those people,
mm,
and for them with each other because they get that level of energy. I mean, everything takes energy. What I look at is how do you set up things that give back even more. So,
mm.
when it's the end of the day and I can't, where did the day go? And well, just one more thing. I just got to finish this. And so I'll be
Uh-huh,
ready for tomorrow's meeting. It's like, okay.
uh-huh.
We literally sometimes have to kick people out just because of the fact that like they're so excited and working on things together and they're
Mm,
they're loving it.
mhm,
So when you've got that level of energy going on, that's it. Well, how do you do that? How do you create that? And the truth is, there are as many ways to grow a business as there are people because everybody's got different skills, different strengths, different passions, and all that. And that combination, combined with different combinations of people, creates so many different nuances on what you could do that I don't
mm,
believe in any single formula. So instead of a formula, what I've put together is a framework that allows for the people side of the business to grow,
mm,
along with whatever the technical side is, and it actually. Is a way to support people growing their business in ways that work for them, but also by identifying the underlying impediments lurking beneath each of those milestones of growth. How to identify them first of all, and then move past them at the same time. So
mm,
it's sort of a guide to give people an idea as to first of all, yes, it is doable. You can actually really, really enjoy an $8 million company. Secondly, there are ways to do it so that you actually diminish the heartaches, not increase them as you get ever more complex, and just how to have more fun.
mm. And the subtitle is Joy, right?
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
you're
In fact, it's so long, I better make sure I get it right. Here's the Established Business Owner's Guide to Grow, Make an Impact, and Find the Joy Again. The
Find the
levels
joy
of
again.
find the joy again. So we look at three levels of freedom.
Hmm.
Freedom in the business, doing more of the things that that really turn you on and that you love to do and love to contribute. Freedom from the business, actually giving yourself permission to have a life outside the business, and freedom because of the business, whether it's legacy planning, whether it's making an impact in some corner of the world, whether it's creating an environment where your people all thrive. There's a number of companies we work with that actually want to multiply the number of net liquid millionaires they have on their team.
Oh, sweet.
That is so much fun to play in,
Oh, I bet.
and
Yeah.
a lot of joy when you're actually when everybody's wealthy and everybody's contributing things that are aligned with their sweet spot, and they're able to actually make a difference with each other, and they see themselves grow as well.
And there's so much autonomy with that.
Mhm.
Not only you're buying back your time, but also the autonomy of choosing, as you were saying, the impact you want to make in the world, where you want to invest your passion to make that impact, the legacy that you're after.
Mhm. Absolutely. And a lot of people go, well, yeah, well, I don't own a high tech company or I haven't got the latest app, so it can't happen for me. I'm like, are you kidding me? Here's the engineering firms, architecture firms, medical
Mm,
firms,
mm,
um, e-learning companies. I mean, stone and tile people,
mm.
insulation contractors, interior remodeling companies. I mean, we're dealing with all different types of companies as far as that's concerned. It's not about the type of company. It's about the nature of the working relationship between and among the various people. I mean,
Mm.
how do you maintain and grow and sustain a corporate culture? Well, the short answer is you don't sustain it. You're constantly recreating it and you're
Mm.
evolving it as you go. But I mean,
Mm.
it leads to the question, is a business really a well oiled machine, or is it an intelligent ecosystem? If you treat
Ah,
it like a well oiled machine, that means the people are the cogs. And nobody
yeah,
wants to be a cog in a machine.
they're getting ground up every day.
Well, absolutely. And whereas in an intelligent ecosystem, a well-oiled machine has to work for its owners. An
Mm.
ecosystem has to work for everybody.
Mm.
And like it or not, it just does. Now, what happens is that if I'm afraid of getting ground up, I'll back off a bit so that I
Yeah,
can protect myself. So in a
right.
well-oiled machine, it's not quite as well-oiled as you think. Okay. Whereas in an ecosystem, if you can build the balance, and the balance is constantly shifting and shaping, that's why it's actually a little bit of a challenge initially. But as you find the sweet spot of it, and as you evolve it, it can actually be far more satisfying. And the thing is that this stuff, I got to tell you, even when I listen to myself, it's like, boy, does that sound like a bunch of utopian garbage. It really does, doesn't it? It's like, what's this guy
Who
thinking?
who does
Vancouver, huh?
that?
Yeah, yeah. Is he hanging off a mountain too much? I don't know. But the truth is, it's actually how things work when they work at their best. It's
Mm.
probably as hard-nosed, uh, focused ways of maximizing profit that you can get.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know,
You grow the people, you're growing the profits of the company.
Yeah, and you don't manipulate anybody because nobody wants to be manipulated. You don't
Right.
control anybody. They don't want to be controlled. But half the game is getting the right people on board. And who are the
Mm.
people? The people that actually want to be there and want to contribute in a meaningful way. So that's why
Mm.
I love your question about hiring, because that really, other than rethinking the core, where you actually have to include the people rather than having the people be the cogs,
Right.
the first step after that really is to hire smart. And
Mm.
and there are things to listen for, and I have a list of that. In fact, one of the things that I put in the book, it's an attachment to the book, but is inside the book, I've got a code, and anybody who's got the book, what you get is there's a 70-page detailed hiring process that we give
Mm.
away just as part of the thing, and it's free to anybody that's got the book. You just go in and you find the spot. It's in the hiring section, so it's not like we're hiding it from anyone, but it's literally how we help companies hire.
Mm.
And right down to what are the questions I ask in a telephone interview? What are the questions we ask in a first interview? What is it that we're looking for when we ask the questions?
Mm.
What is it? How do you listen? And what do you ask when you're doing reference checks? Are there
Mm.
assignments you give people? It depends on what level they're at. And what are the nature of the assignments? And what are you looking for when you get these things? And then how do you actually build it so that first of all, you actually do attract the right person? Because a lot of times people go, that sounds like a lot of steps and nobody would do that. Well, not if you haven't taken a little bit of time to think through how you want to actually go about this. And then,
Right.
and how do you want to attract people? We'll spend a lot more time looking for marketing from our products and
Hmm.
services, but we don't spend the same amount of time to actually attract the people that actually make everything work.
Wow. Yes, that's spot on. And the people are the ones who are going to be making those products and marketing them. Michael Walsh is my guest on this episode of the Work Positive Podcast. I mentioned the LinkedIn URLs in the show notes. Also, the book Freedom by Design is there in the show notes, as is the link to Michael's website, which is walshbusinessgrowth.com. Michael, when we go there, what are we going to discover?
Well, first of all, that like while we help people grow companies, I don't believe in growth for growth's sake. Okay.
Hmm.
It's about how do I grow in support of something beyond just the growth itself. In other words, unless you have an end in mind, then it doesn't really work. The other thing you're
Gotcha.
going to find is a number of little mini videos that give people access to different perspectives on what to expect, what are some of the myths and misconceptions that get in the way of growth, what are some things that people never thought of. Those types of things are in
Hmm.
and about the website itself, as well as some sort of case studies of different people. We had videos of people and what is it that they were looking for? What is it that they were able to accomplish, and how did they do that? And I got to tell you, if somebody goes there and they look for things and they just get access, for example, to one of the books that we've written, based on whatever size their business is, they're in a situation that whether or not they ever do business with us, my goal is that they're better off from that.
Hmm.
We're constantly evolving, blogs and things like that. We're actually just looking at a new blog about growth
Uh-huh.
and impact.
Oh,
So how do,
sweet.
as you grow, how do you increase the impact that's available from your business?
Hmm. I love
Stuff
it.
like that.
I love it. Michael Walsh, the Work Positive Community, always wants to know from my guests. So I got to ask you too. We've talked about a lot of things, all of it so wonderful today. But what's one thing that you would encourage the Work Positive community to do starting today to create the kind of positive work culture that we're talking about?
Okay, so I think you've seen so far, Dr. Joey, that never answer a question directly. I'd say the one thing is two things. One, so
I would
so
expect that from you.
there you go. And I didn't want to disappoint. Okay, uh,
You did
so
not, my
so
friend.
very good. So the two things. One is really focus on the relationships between and among the people in your organization, and secondly, really listen to see who people are. Like we all have biological instincts to survive. We have an innate desire to thrive. We have both the need and the ability to connect, and we also have the ability to adapt to a changing environment. You had those four little elements of human behavior, and you see how does that apply to this person? They look stuck. What's going on? You know what? They're in a little bit of survival mode. If I see somebody acting out, but I realize they're in survival mode, I'll treat them very differently than I just think that they're out to hurt somebody. If you can actually just stop and listen to understand where people are, then you can actually develop richer relationships. You can actually have your businesses flourish, and you can really enjoy the process along the way.
I love it. Michael Walsh has been my guest on this episode of the Work Positive Podcast. Michael, I'm better for this conversation. I know the Work Positive community is as well. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today.
You're most welcome.
I'm so grateful you joined our conversation about creating positive work cultures that grow people and profits. Connect with me directly on LinkedIn today. Just search for Dr. Joey Fawcett, or you can click the link in your show notes. When you send your connection request, mention you're a Work Positive Podcast listener because I want to give you a free digital copy of my Work Positive Team Edition book. It's a $19.95 value, but I want to share it with you free because it contains practical strategies that I personally use with clients to transform toxic work environments into thriving cultures. We explore in that book how to create a positive work culture, and we do so again in every episode of this podcast. Our LinkedIn connection allows you and me to directly talk about your specific challenges, so feel free to send me a message on LinkedIn. I personally read and respond to all those messages because I genuinely care about your work positive success. So go to LinkedIn and let's connect. Remember to mention you're a podcast listener to receive your free Work Positive Team Edition book. I look forward to seeing you on our next episode of the Work Positive Podcast.